I was accepted at Princeton, and I went to Princeton because my father felt I should take ROTC.
Ah,
And Williams, where most of my friends were going, did not have ROTC. I'm very glad I took ROTC. I'm very glad I took ROTC because it meant that I attended drills and summer camps and got to be a first lieutenant, so that when Pearl Harbor came and I got my telegram, of course I was expecting it and I had my trunk locker already packed, I got my orders to report to Fort Bragg and took a 1-month refresher course in artillery because we had had training on the French 75, but they were just introducing the 105 howitzer,
right.
which is a bit different. So I took that course. At the end of the course, to my surprise, I had expected to go to Fort Sill for a 3-month course. All my classmates went to Fort Sill, but they pulled my card out because I was a lawyer and decided that I should do administrative work. I became assistant adjutant of the 5th Field Artillery Training Regiment. And that was where the adjutant said to me, there are various ways of doing things. The right way, the wrong way, the Army way, and the Field Artillery Training Center way. We did it the Field Artillery Training Center way. Well, I learned a lot from that adjutant, and after a little more than a year of doing much court-martial work and work on boards of different kinds, as for instance when a person died in the service, you had a line of duty board to determine whether he died in line of duty or whether he didn't. After Fort Bragg, where I did administrative work for 13 months, I entered the pipeline to go to Europe. I first went to the Provost Marshal General School for a 1-month course in the military law applicable to an occupied country. And it was really, we studied both civil affairs, is where you're invited into the country, and military government, where you force your way in. But we studied both under very competent instructors. And then after I graduated from the 1-month school, I was sent to Boston University for an intensive course in French. Now, I had had French in school and college, and this was really a course in the kind of French you need in being a link between the Army and the civilian government. In other words, how do you get the waterworks going? How to get the power going, how to arrange to get the local police doing what you want them to do. And that was a different kind of French, of course. Some of the people in this French course knew as much French or more than I did. But we were all ignorant of the military needs. Well, we were shipped out before completing the course at Boston University. I went to the port of embarkation at Boston, and we entered on a ship called the Masterson, which had been a Holland American Line ship, but it was converted to a troop ship. And I was in a room which normally would have been for 2 deluxe passengers, and there were 6 officers in there.
Very golly.
But we managed very well, and one of the things was that you had to wear a life preserver whenever you left your room, because they said that if we get torpedoed, the taxpayer has a right to find a life preserver on every corpse. So, of course, we went over in blackout conditions in a convoy, and we were not torpedoed. We ended up at Liverpool, and during blackout, we marched to a troop train. I went to Manchester, a British Army installation. And at that time, they were mixing British and American teams to go into France. So I was assigned to the British. I took various courses with them. One was driving the Bedford truck, which is a little different from a GM truck, but it was not a bad truck. And during the days before D-Day, we'd be out with these trucks, and we'd see the American airplanes and gliders going over, but they were mainly practicing. It wasn't the real thing. But then one day it was the real thing. And I was in a Bedford truck and saw these big DC-3s towing gliders and bombers going over, ships loading tanks. At Eastbourne, where I was with the British on the Channel coast, they were waterproofing the tanks in the street, and it was a restricted area. And we didn't get any bombs there, but in our hotel room, which I shared with a British officer, a machine gun bullet had come through the roof and taken a chip off the wash basin.
My God.
That was in the days before they threw the upper hand. But in that early period, Eastbourne used to be one of the things that the Nazi aviators bombed and strafed for practice with their graduation exercise to fly across the channel and shoot up Eastbourne. But we were getting V1s. V1s were rockets, and you didn't need to worry about V1s. In fact, we'd be outside the hotel having tea at 4 o'clock with the British officers. The V1s go over towards London. But if the motor stopped, then you're worried because the thing would swivel down. You never knew where it would come. And you'd want to be behind a tree, a good big tree or stone wall or something when it landed, because if it landed anywhere near you, there'd be a terrific concussion. There were cases where it would land near a school. The children were all trained to get down under the desks, but you could see where the windows were blown out and the splinters of glass were blown right into the plaster of the wall. So if you'd been between the window and the wall, you would have been just full of these glass splinters. I was stationed in Munich in the military government occupation of Germany at the time of the Nuremberg trials. And we would read every day in the Stars and Stripes, the little military newspaper, about what was going on. We didn't get a full report, but we got some idea of what was going on. Of course, there were legal issues there that were very troublesome to me, like trying people for waging an aggressive war. If we had lost the war, would we want General Eisenhower charged with waging an aggressive war? And there were other problems, crimes against humanity. Well, I suppose there are people here in the United States who committed such crimes. Maybe somebody's grandfather was a slave owner and maybe killed a slave, for all I know.
Yeah.
So I did feel that it was a bit of a pot calling the kettle black,
Mm-hmm.
but it was our policy and I supported it.